This Tibet House video was originally recorded at Menla Retreat in Phoenicia, New York, March 2017. To learn more about this annual program, please visit menla.us.
That's a nice one. Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to tell you one other thing though, just about Tara. First I wanted to tell you a personal story. I thought I would share that tonight. The first sort of, that I remember anyway, the first sort of miraculous thing that happened in my life was at the birth of my eldest daughter by my previous wife, my first wife, who I was briefly married to when I was a teenager. And she was born when I was 20 years old. And my daughter. And in those days, 1961, there was no natural childbirth, it was not a thing, you know, and you were in a room with a bunch of cigars and so on, like the father was. So you didn't get near it, the whole thing. And they're like the old-fashioned way. And well, I was in a bit of a state, but I was smoking Schimmelpenning cigars, and I was happy young 20-year-old. And then the doctor came to the room where I was there smoking the cigar, in the father's room, in the Boston Lying-in Hospital, and as it was called. And he said, "You come see your daughter." And very nice, sort of rough, very friendly, nice obstetrician. And so I was walking down the hall and following him down a long hallway. And then I kept hearing this thing, this voices, which I thought was the PA system of the hospital. But it was weird voices. And sometimes later I recognized what it was. And I thought, as I was walking, there were some voices, and I wasn't thinking, I was so like hepped up to see the baby, you know. I was only 20 myself. And my wife. And but this voices kept saying, "Tara, Tara, Tara," like that. And it was like a chorus, actually. But my mind was normalizing it so much that I was thinking, well, some Dr. Tara is being summoned to some place on the PA system. But I wasn't. It was, and I think I'm the only one who heard it. And it was repeating, Tara, 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 like this. It was a loud voice, bunch of voices. And when I walked therefore into the room, and my wife was proudly holding the baby, and there I was. And I immediately said, "Let's call her Tara." And I had never, you know, I had seen Gone with the Wind maybe, but I had never heard of the name Tara. I had not heard that name, I didn't know about Tara, and I had no idea. And I said, "Let's call her Tara." So then my ex-wife, who was French, and she says, "Ah non, les enfants sont tellement cruels dans l'école. Ils vont dire quand elle vient, Tara, 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 Tara." She said that like she just had a baby, but of course she was worrying about the future. This is a nice person, really. And so then I said, "Okay, well let's make it Taya," I said, which did end up as her name, which is also a name of Tara, which I didn't know. Wow. And then quite later, maybe a year or two later, when I was involved in Buddhism, my son raised, "Well, of course, why would I call Tara?" And then I remembered that there was multiple voices, like a chorus, like a celestial, like an angel chorus, you know, in like a harmonious thing. Tara, 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 like that, all the way down the hall. So they brainwashed me, and the minute I said, "Let's call her Tara." And I never heard the name, I didn't know anybody named Tara. And in those days, you know, they didn't have like now where in those hospitals everybody's a Pakistani or an Indian or something. That was 61, that was not like that in those days. We still had general practitioners and a few honky doctors. So that was actually one of the first miracles that ever happened to me, was by Tara, naming my first daughter. Taya. So that's one thing. Then the story that you're asking is a story about, what is the story? I'm sorry, what was it? It was...
The Rolling Mantra?
Oh yeah, Well, the fifth Dalai Lama, he had a telescope, and that's in the 17th century. And it's the way the story is told. And he would sometimes stand on the potala like the young, we have in our book, the young 14 Dalai Lama, still doing that when he was a kid, little boy, looking from down at the people in the square with his telescope. And he saw one lady who was walking with her rosary, doing a chorus, like circumambulating the potala, which is considered a virtuous thing to circle someplace. And, with a spiritual attitude, circumambulating. And he noticed that Tara was hovering, an emanation of Tara, like an Obi-Wan level, light-bodied sort of Tara, wisdom heroine, was above the lady and sort of looking out for her, like going along with her. So he sent somebody down to summon her up to visit him, to have an audience with him, which must have been terrifying to her. She had no idea. Anyway, so she comes up. So then he says, wow, he says, so what are you doing then? What sort of special yoga do you have? Like what's, I see you and I see Tara like just hovering right over your shoulder. You're amazing. I honor you. He was respecting her and so on. And she said, oh, I don't do anything special. She said, I just go Om Tari Turi Swaha. Well, that's great, he said. That's wonderful. You just carry on. Thank you for coming to see me and telling me that. I'm really touched to hear it. And so on. He gave her encouragement. And then she left. But then in the anteroom, the officer in charge, the chamberlain, he's like, Mr. Correct. So he says, well, listen, ma'am, that's great, and His Holiness really is happy and liked it, and he praised you. But you're really saying the mantra wrong. You should say Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha, not Om Tari Turi Swaha, but Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha. Oh, she said, thank you so much. This elderly lady, she said, that's so nice. I will do it right from now on. Thank you. So then she goes down and said, and the next day, or another day, then Hala was looking at the telescope, and he sees her walking there, and there's no Tara hovering over her shoulder. Where's the Tara? So then he sends down to find out, and she comes up, and he says, well, what happened? I didn't see Tara looking out for you anymore. And she said, well, I don't know. I'm not doing anything different. I'm doing it wrong. Your chamberlain told me, corrected my mantra pronunciation, so I've been saying the mantra properly even, so I'm surprised. And then, the Dalai Lama was upset and scolded the chamberlain, and he said, no, you were saying it just right before. Om Tari Turi Swaha. You go back to saying it that way. Don't listen to my chamberlain. There's a way of saying Om Tari Turi Swaha. Yes, you might want to do that sometimes. But when you do your walking in your Torah, I think it's better you do it your way, Om Tari Turi Swaha. So you would do that. So then, then again, 3 days later, he sees her, and then Tara's back there with her. Saying it wrong. That's very sweet. But of course, the Tibetans always try to get away with that. Now, I'm sorry, but I have to say something here, which is funny about my karma. But, Tibetans have trouble pronouncing some Sanskrit words. And mantras are Sanskrit. For example, Vajrapani, or a lot of mantras have the word Vajra in it. V-A-J-R-A, Vajra. But they can't say that. They say benzo. So they go on benzo pani. They say, and benzo pani. They're like, Vajra pani. They can't say, it's some consonant clusters they can't say. So they say a lot of funny pronunciations. And they say if that's what you heard from your guru, that's what you should repeat, even if it's wrong. And I don't agree. I say, I heard from the guru. The guru is saying it with a Tibetan mouth and through a certain history. But you know what? Those bodhisattvas live in the heavens where they know their name in Sanskrit. Vajrapani, and they want to hear it in Sanskrit. By the way, when you recite the mantra of Tara, it would be good for you to know that the T in the Tare Tutare Ture is it's this thing that we don't really have in English. And it's called an unaspirated T, which is not the T I just said. T, our English T is always aspirated. In other words, we say it with a lot of breath, T. So if you go Om Tare Tu Swaha with a lot of breath, it makes you tired more quickly and you run out of breath. But if you say it in the proper way, and you have to practice, you make a ta sound, and with almost no breath coming out of your mouth. Ta, ta. A very dry sound where you don't exhale as you're saying the ta, 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 ta-re-tu-re. So it's like it's a little bit like when people make fun of the Indian accent and they go, I'm going to town, Richard Savage said, I need a friend, big friend that I will go to town today. So it's a little bit like that dry T, which they have in Sanskrit language. So Om Tari-tu-re Swaha. If you can say it like that, then you don't breathe out so much. Then you can make more to one breath, something like that. And then if you recite it a long time, like 1,000, 100,000, if you do these practices, you recite many times. Then you can learn to keep reciting while inhaling. Om Tari-tu-tari-turi, Om Tari-tu-tari, Om Tari-tu-tari-turi, or some other swaha, you can go like that. You can inhale while keeping the mantra going. Om Tari-tu-tari-turi, Om Tari-tu-tari-turi, swaha. You can do like that. You learn to do that if you say mantra. But you murmur the mantra when you do it. It's a meditation thing. You don't shout it out. But Tari-tu-tari-turi is great. If you could, that is calling on Tara to come help you out. And she responds, they say. You have faith. See that? So, okay. So, that meditation, you can do yourself. You can also do one where same thing, but you think of Tara as imagine being here in space in front of you. And this is a very brief one, so it's imagining yourself as Tara. But you imagine her in space in front of you, and then you make offerings to her, and then she sends you blessing light rays. And then maybe she comes to the crown of your head, or she comes in and melts into light and comes into your heart. You can do different things like that. And then if you get really good at it and you want to go really deeper with it, then you find, I want to have a formal consecration, ceremonial one, or initiation, and that will help you. It helps you to do that. But this was not. This is just a rehearsal. This is a rehearsal. Dress rehearsal.
Thank you so much, Bob. That's great.
Okay. So what are we going to do now?
This video was brought to you in part with the generous support of the Tibet House US membership community. To learn more about the benefits of Tibet House membership, please visit Tibet House US, including invites to special trips to study Buddhism up close and personal with Robert Thurman during his annual geographic expedition trips. Trips in 2018 include Mongolia and Bhutan. To learn more, visit bobthurman.com.